Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsay, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. And for those of you who prefer to watch and listen, you can catch this episode at YouTube. That's youtube.com/@TalkDesignPodcast. My guest on Talk Design today is Peter Twohy, and Peter is back. Now, I've done maybe 3 or 4 different recordings with Peter and some other people where we've mixed it together. He's one of my favorites. I've got to travel with him. I love having him critique my design. Like a lot of us that are designers, we may work solo or we may work in a very small office. Peter is always very generous with critiquing design for me, which again broadens my knowledge. So Peter, welcome back to Talk Design. It's so good to have you here, man.
Thank you, Adrian. It's always great to be here and to have a conversation with you. But I have some news for you. Yep.
Yep. Take
Today's
me there.
Talk Design is being hijacked. We're hijacking Talk Design. And I am now Adrian, and you, Adrian, are my guest.
Oh
And
my God.
because I know that the world wants to know more about you. And so I have questions and they need answers.
Oh my
So
God. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, but let's see. I like to be the one who asks the questions.
I
The,
know,
con
I know.
the control freak in me has this stuff going on, but let's see.
But here we go. The Color Design House is a unique company. And the thing that I think makes it both unique and successful are these 3 concepts that really you do, and not very many other people that I know do any of these, which is land whispering, design magic, and this emotional floor plan. What I'd love for you to do is just give like a high level overview on those 3, and then I want to dig into each one a little bit.
Sure, I'd love to actually. If you go back in the design histories, I've been designing homes for over years, and I think there's a lot of things that have grown in me in understanding things. And my kind of happy spaces in the world are outdoors. I love cities, but I also love the country. I love that big contrast. I'm a snow skier, I'm a surfer, I'm a hiker. I love getting into nature, but I'm just as happy if I'm in New York or if I'm in Denver or if I'm in Los Angeles in the city as well. I'm a creature of both. In fact, need both. They both do different. One ramps up my energy, the other one disperses it. It calms it. So what happened along on the journey is I was listening to a book called Built to Sell, I think is what the book is called. And I could look that up and confirm that. And I was listening to this book and they were talking about productize and branding the processes that you do. And in one of my early podcasts, I was talking to Jeffrey Dungan from down in Alabama. And Jeffrey made the comment to me, you look across a build site, and he said, and the house builds itself in front of you. And out of all the different people I'd ever talked to, it was the first time I'd ever heard it said like that, which is what happens for me. And now I've spoken to a lot of people since then and asked them this question. Not everybody gets that thing where it builds it in front of you. And I went, yeah, that's exactly what happens. It just starts forming itself and then all the questions and the analytics that come with that. And then I started playing with this concept of going to sites and then saying, why is it informing that? What's happening there? And my love of being in nature, as I say, I love cities, I love both. My love of being in nature, I go back to all the things, like, for example, hiking in Yosemite. And I'm in Yosemite and I am constantly visualizing where you would build a cabin or a house or a compound or whatever. And I remember it so clearly in different spots in Yosemite. And I'm like, okay, but the architecture kept shifting. It wasn't the same cabin, it was responding to the environment. And then I start to play through these things of, with all architecture, the most important thing that comes first is the response to the environment and what we're going to work with. And I've done lots of talks and stuff on stage and things like that. And I often used to say to people, we only get a couple of free things. So we buy a bit of land and we get a couple of free things. We get light and we get air, we get rain, and nobody taxes those three things on that piece of land. Otherwise, everything else we're paying for. We pay for the view, we pay for the proximity to a city, we pay for water, we pay for sewage, we pay for everything else. So if we're getting three free things, how do we grab those and embody those and make the best of them for any house? How do we, for any living environment or any shelter of any kind? And so I went down this start of this and then this visualization of homes and all the rest. And then the energy that land feels. So you're walking along on a piece of land, dum-de-doo. And I always think it's like going on a bear hunt. That story, and going on a bear hunt. I'll have to climb over the log. Anybody who doesn't know the story, look up the kid's book, I'm Going on a Bear Hunt. And it's like splishy, splashy, splishy, splashy. Do I go round it? Do I go over it? So I went, whenever I go to land and we're going to design a house for somebody, it's like going on a bear hunt. I need to discover the land. I need to discover what the free things. Air, when I say air, the wind is another thing that's free. Bird song is free. Bird songs are a free thing. The rustle in the trees is a free thing. The smell is a free thing. We don't pay for those pieces, but those are the senses we need to engage. And we subconsciously, our subconscious engages those when we're on land, and it tells us stories. It starts to form our narrative of the land. So taking that a little bit further, I went, okay, start exploring. And in exploring, start looking at why it matters. And there's all the sustainability and all that part of why it matters. But we all know as designers, and as even as non-designers, we all know that when we go to a piece of land, we stand on some spots and we feel the energy of either the view or the land around us. And on other spots, we go, oh, this doesn't feel so good. But there'll be this shift in energy of that we are feeling.
So I'm going to push back just for a second. And what I'm going to tell you is that, like, I agree that a lot of people play guitar, right? Some of us are a lot better than others. Eddie Van Halen is better on his worst day than I'll ever be on my best day. And that's okay. He plays guitar for a living. I don't. You, on the other hand, are like the Eddie Van Halen of this. And so you have to understand that when you say that everyone does this, no, that everyone does, and every architect might, but there's not very many people that articulate it the way you do. So I just want you to be aware of that when you're.
There's a lot that I think you could learn, and then there's the magical pieces that you have to, there is method to learn. And I can tell people about that. But there's magical pieces that, yeah, maybe just being in some sense of harmony with it. Maybe I'm not quite sure exactly. I know how I do it, and mine's a prescribed method.
Yep.
And that really shifts how it is. And I'll tell a little bit about that. But one of the biggest things, and I was saying this to an architect just recently, we were talking about the land whispering process. And I said, you don't want to necessarily build the house right on this magical spot. And when I say that to clients, I'll give you the example. So I say to you, Peter, this piece of land that you're looking at, and let's say it's a bit of acreage, so it's got a bit of space on it. Where are you thinking of the house going? And this is unfair because you're an architect and you've done it before, you've sited houses. But you go, oh, right here. Or your client might go, oh, we want to be, right here. We want to see all this. And when you dig in and find out what's magical about it, and it might not be see it, it might be feel it, that space that they're talking about is probably worth preserving as the land and build adjacent to it. Now, I was saying this to somebody and they said, Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank used to say, build adjacent to the feature so that you get the feature, don't build on the feature. And I'd love to talk to him about falling water in that case, because you go, wow, he put the house right where they used to sit on a rock. But I'll give the guy his chops. He was the genius. I'm just learning. But that thing of going, oh, okay, there. I had a builder recently bought a farm, and he said to me, he was telling me where he was going to build his house. And he said, we're parking the caravan on this spot at the moment. We're traveling to and from and hanging out there. And I'm like, oh, wow, it sounds really cool and all the rest. And I said, so where are you going to put the house? And he goes, it's a good question, but we've got this really magical spot. We're going to put it there. And I said, are you going to put, and this is me being a smartass, but really to prompt him, are you going to put the laundry there, the garage, or the living room? And he obviously, it was like, oh, good question. Yeah. And I said to him, consider keeping that spot forever. And that spot in a fairly natural form, and build the house back from it so that it is part of what you get to do and be in. And he was like, gotcha. That shifted him totally.
And to me, to me, one of the reasons why anybody would hire any architect, you, me, anybody else, is to widen their perspective and increase their enjoyment of the property, the home, their actual daily life. But they won't even know necessarily how, just that it will happen. And this is a great example. Like you hire Adrian because of when you go to the website and you can see the beautiful photos, but it's more than that, because you're getting the rain and the air and that kind of for free with Adrian in a way. You're getting all the design talent, you pay for that, but then there's more. And this is, I think, part of that. It's in your D at maybe at a molecular level. You do, and I know a lot of architects, and they have different methods, and yours is unique. And I love it, and I'm taking notes. So just so everyone can see, I got a pencil in my hand.
One of the things from that book was, like, you have your processes that you do, and I would very rarely sit back and analyze my processes. And that book was like, if you want to be able to utilize them, if you formalize them, that makes it easy for other people to understand them. And so between myself and another amazing architect, a guy called Brad Hubble-Daly in Marin County, Brad and I were having this conversation about land and all the rest, and we formed this concept of land whispering. And in doing that, we then joined with 4 other architects and said, do you get this? How does it fit with you? And actually, those guys, we meet every week. We globally meet every week, and we discuss all kinds of things. But the basis that we started to meet on, or not started to meet on, that we continue to meet on, is land whispering and how we're engaging that, whether it be in a cityscape or whether it be in a countryside. At what points are we engaging that process, and how we upskilling and our clients valuing it, not just that, what are we learning from each other in this interaction? How are we growing from it in the interaction? So that's land whispering. I just actually had the pleasure of doing
Yeah, I love.
a sunrise
Let me
one
jump in
this
here.
week.
Go say that again.
I just had the pleasure of doing a sunrise lamb whispering session this week. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
tell me about that.
you're up before the sun comes up and you're on site. And it was on a 10-acre piece of a 60-acre property that we were going to. And we were looking at a house site. And that the property slopes down towards the north, which is good for us, opposite for the southern hemisphere. We'd be saying it slopes to the south in the southern hemisphere. And on the eastern side, we had a tree line that we could drop down into, or we could stay elevated. And if we stayed elevated, we got these long views out over the tree line. On the western side, it was a little taller, but that's blocking. We're in Queensland, we try to block our western heat, but we do get amazing sunsets. So a bit of a game there. We go there, and I did a fair bit of it in bare feet, which is always a bit of a challenge in Queensland because there's tons of shit that wants to bite your feet. There's ants and there's all those kinds of things. But walking in bare feet and almost doing the meditative state, which I will explain a little bit on that, whilst being on the land, and then looking at what the biomimicry of a home might need, as well as looking at our positioning, as well as understanding where their breezes come from. So I was talking to the landowner and what they block, what they get, where the cold comes from, where the heat comes from, and then just getting really settled in the space. For those of you who have never heard of Jose Silva and a thing called the Silva method, I encourage you to go and look it up. So the Silva method is about activating your alpha brain waves on command. And Jose Silva was a guy from Texas, and he created the Silva method. It's been taught all around the world for many years. And it gives you almost a clairvoyant nature of understanding when you can turn on your alpha brain waves. So we're operating in beta brain waves now, and most of our day is spent in beta brain waves. Our subconscious is always running in the background. Our subconscious is way more powerful than our conscious mind. What we can do is we can create anchors and things that actually turn on our subconscious mind, and then we can program it, we can ask it for certain outcomes. And I do this a lot when I'm with clients, and I do it when I'm land whispering. And so it's almost like consciously aware meditation. So look it up. Jose Silva, a phenomenal human being. The Silva method, a phenomenal method of memory, but beyond memory, visualization, and then clairvoyant nature. Yeah.
So to me, this would be obviously an invaluable tool to start any project, a home, maybe most specifically. Let's flip to like design magic and then the emotional floor plan. So
Cool.
give me some runway on that.
Design magic comes from the premise of the more educated people in this space, I'm not saying that we're educated. When we have a client, our client comes with less knowledge than we do in this field because we've spent years honing our skills in it. And it is our responsibility to take our client on a journey. Like I say to people, design is a series of levels of discovery. It is not just here's a picture, this will do the job. It's a discovery. It's a discovery of the land. It's a discovery of them. It's a discovery of what's possible. And then it also is a discovery of what they don't know. We talk about build cost per square meter. We talk about build cost per square foot. And this changes state to state in the US and in Australia and in New Zealand. It changes everywhere, depending on labor, depending on transportation, availability, just all these things shift. And in that, one of the things that we need to do is we need to establish a cost parameter with our clients of how far their money will go. You know, again, I say this to all my clients, and I say it a lot when I'm talking to architects or if I'm doing a talk from stage or any of those things. I go, we have a responsibility, to the land, because what we do is going to alter it forever. So we need to come back to that sense of responsibility of being rigorous about how well we do our job, because we're about to take a good piece of land or a piece of land that may be virgin land, maybe not, but we're about to take that land and we're about to alter it again forever or alter it forever. So there's a high level of responsibility. And then we go, what's it likely to, our client comes to us with a dream. The dream is not to work with us. That's crushing, but the dream is not to work with us. The dream is not to work with the builder. They're not dreaming about working with the builder. They're dreaming about themselves in a house or in a property. And if it's a development, they're dreaming about lots of people in it. And then they're dreaming about what cash they make out of it, what they do from it. But let's just go back to single residential homes, because that's what we specialize in. They are dreaming. Their end goal is, in by Christmas. I don't know, whatever it is, in by Christmas, in by summer. That's their end goal. And in their mind, they have a visual imagination that or a feeling, depending on whether they're kinesthetic or whether they're auditory or whether they're visual, they are going to have a feeling, a narrative, or a visualization of this, probably an event, probably then a longer term events beyond that of day-to-day life. They've got this in their head. The only reason we're there is because they need somebody to get them there. So going, I want to be in New York. I'm going to need a bus to the airport. I'm going to need to get on a plane. I'm going to need to get out of New York. And then I'll be in, I don't know, LaGuardia or somewhere, or maybe JFK. And then I need a taxi to the city or a bus or whatever the hell it is. It's a journey, and we need the bus driver, the plane driver, I think they call them pilots, but yeah, a bus driver, a pilot, a train driver. We need all those things to fulfill our dream. We didn't want any of those things. Right. We just want to be in New York. A dream. Yeah, exactly. So they don't come to us because they do at some point, they get the value of coming to us, but we're just facilitating a dream. So get out of the way of our own ego and work to get them to their dream. Design magic is all about that. It's about chunking it in. The old analogy, you take a jar and you put the big rocks in first, and then you put the gravel in, or the smaller rocks, so slightly smaller, and then the gravel, and then the sand, and then the water. So I use this analogy with clients all the time. So the big rocks are going to be, this project won't happen without this. These are the things we'd really love in that project. Those are the smaller rocks. And then these are the things that, oh my God, if we could get this, would be amazing. That would be my sand. But there's a finite amount of budget that this operates to. So what are the big rocks going to cost us? What are the smaller rocks going to cost us? And what's the sand going to cost us? Because we know there will be water. We know water will come. We know we're going to need water, because that's going to be the furniture. It's going to be these other things, the landscape, these other pieces. So depending on where their hierarchy of needs is and what they want, we need to put the big rocks in. And when we're putting the big rocks in, we can start to put just chunky numbers around those. The job is to educate them, to guide them, to bring them into that space. So if they go, well, we want, 5 bedrooms with 5 en suites, with 5 walk-in robes, with whatever, we go, okay, each of those has some kind of dollar value in some environment. How do we chunk those into dollar values and then look at it against their budget really early on? Is their budget $750 a square foot? Is their budget $100 a square foot? Are we the right person to be in the room with them if their budget is $100 a square foot? Probably not. Probably not. So getting this piece together is design magic, and it's got a lot of function, but it's a lot of pulling from them as well and understanding. You're looking for the twinkle in their eye. You're looking for the little quirky bits on their face language that tell you that you're putting bait in the water, and it tells you they just bit. They just took the bait. And they took that bait, and then that opens a piece of conversation that we understand them a little deeper and a little deeper as we're in a discovery. That all that information is great for the design, but it's also great to be able to understand when they're just in functionality or whether they're in dreamland. And when we want them to be in dreamland, we want to keep them in conceptual dream as far as they can, because our job as designers is to take all that information and start manipulating it into the home that they want. And that might mean we're cleverly making multi-purpose rooms, or we're making opportunities for more to be built later, or we're showing them how a space could change by the ceiling heights, and that would give them a different emotional feel. And that kind of leads into then the emotional floor plan. But that's design magic. And it's something I've done for 20 years. I think about the first 4 years of doing this, I didn't do it. I just was really excited to send an invoice for the drawing I was going to do. And then I went, what happened was early on, I would have clients come to me and they would have a set of plans already from somebody else that had drawn them. And I would say to them, how can I help you? And they would say, we can't afford to build these. And I'm like, I would look and I would see how many times they'd made that plan. Would it be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J? And I'd go, if they're at J in their discovery journey, they're probably burnt out the person they're working with, whether it be a draftsman or an architect or whatever. They've probably asked for everything and been given everything. They're probably equally as responsible as the person who's drawing it for the scope creep and all the rest, because it's discovery. And nobody wants to give back what they've discovered.
Yeah, I've learned that people don't always understand the financial ramifications of the decisions that they're making.
I
And
don't.
as soon
So
as
how
we
can they?
and so as soon as we give them an inkling of that, this could be a lot or this could be a little, then we find out how much it's worth to them. So there's not really necessarily a right or a wrong
Yeah.
answer. Because that might, whatever it is, a space for a pool table might be perfect for some client, but way too expensive for another because they don't play pool and it would be a room unto itself and all that. So to me, like figuring out what's going to be valuable to each individual client, and then those are the big rocks, right?
Those are the big
Like you said,
rocks. Yeah.
right? And yeah, so I love that. I love that.
Our responsibility is to let them dream and keep their dream alive, and to educate them along the way gently. We don't have to rip the band-aid off on the mirror like this. We're there to facilitate a dream.
Yeah.
This is nurture country. This is take people on a journey. And I think this is one of the things about finding your right people to work with, because your ideal client needs to be comfortable to come on this journey as well. And they will get vulnerable in a journey. And when we talk about emotional floor plan, you'll see how vulnerable they get. We want them to be vulnerable, and then we want to hold them gently in the space and then shine the light to what they love and get them to really give themselves to this project. Like it's very different working, say, with a developer versus working with people who are going to live in their home, or it be maybe a holiday home or whatever. People with multiple homes actually take on multiple personalities of who they want to be in the other space. I'm in the woods, I'm Daniel Boone. Like, I'm in Texas, I'm riding horses and stuff. But then when I'm here, I'm tearing around in my car. I'm a surfer when I'm at the beach. I'm a woodsman when I'm in the woods. It's like these are parts of my personality I allow to tell me stories. One thing, I'm an adventurer. The other one, I'm a risk taker. And people do this with homes, especially holiday homes. They go, oh, my London house is this way, but my home in the Cotswolds is this way. Or my home in Austin is like this, but my mountain place in the mountains in Colorado is like this.
Yeah, so to me, it's about you said vulnerable, and I 100% agree, but it's also this level of authenticity that we're trying to elicit from them because this authentic version of their self is true in the mountains, but it wouldn't be true, let's say, in Austin, or it wouldn't be true at
yeah,
the beach
yeah.
or something like that. And so I love how you build that into the process, that we're looking for people to be vulnerable and we're encouraging that and really helping that, but then to get to that authenticity so that we can design what's right for them.
What works for, I say to clients, what works for the land, the environment. Number two, what the regulations allow us to do. Because we
Right.
want to work within those if we can, because it just slows the process too much otherwise, and the dream gets awkward. If we can work within them,
Yeah.
let's work within them. And then thirdly, and most importantly, what's our client looking for as an outcome? But the other two set it up. If we get the sighting of this home, if we get that, they won't even know it's right. It will just be so much better because we'll never give them
Exactly.
the contrast of it
Exactly.
being wrong.
Right.
So then it will allow them to live better in that space. Jeffrey Dungan said it, we're filling boxes with light and air. That's our job. That's what we do. Fill boxes with light and air, and people as well. So get it back to that. If we can do that part really well, and in it we can actually honor and respect the land at the same time, we're doing something. They don't need to know what we're doing to honor and respect the land. That's us. That's
Right.
our responsibility because
Yeah.
we get the opportunity to step into it and own the space of doing that your best you can, and with as much information as you can, and with as much empathy for the land. Here's a question. I walk onto site. I'm in my alpha brainwaves,
Yeah.
and I'll take a little quiet moment, and then I'll go, okay, speak to me. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me what the land requires from me. You talk to me. And then I breathe
Right.
and get really centered with it. And then go, okay, just trust in the fact that the land's going to talk to me.
Right.
And then I go walking. And I like to actually do it on my own. I don't love to do it with my client. If I do it with the client, then I'll do it once with them and then I'll go back on my own. I love to do it before sunrise. I love to see the land wake up. I love to see that light come down the trees. I love to hear the night animals and things fade back as the bird song comes in. I love to observe the first birds I see flying. Otherwise, we've got owls and maybe some night birds, but I love to see those first birds that start moving through a landscape and hearing them calling out. Here we get cockatoos and we get, all sorts of different birds in Australia. I'm a Kiwi, so I'm used to those ones as well. And in America, the bird song. And then if we've got meadowland, oh, if it's a meadow, we're in another piece of heaven because everything starts to change. If I can stay on that site all day on my own, and I'm okay for a few interactions, but if I can stay there all day on my own, I will take my sketch pad and I will roam and I will sit and I will smell the land as it warms up. I will notice the difference in the bird song. I'll see where the shadows are falling. And then if I can get that all the way through to the evening, I absolutely love to go, okay, cool, let's light a fire, just a little campfire, depending on the land, obviously. Not in New
Yeah.
York City, I'm not going to be lighting campfires, but light a little campfire. I take a little like portable fire pit with me and some wood, and I'll just light that. Sometimes I'll do it on the grass if that's okay, if it's big enough piece of land. Just get a fire going and then fire gaze. I sit back and fire
Okay.
gaze, and then that again is that meditative state. And I go through all the patches of what the day has told me, and I watch the sun do the opposite on the trees. So at night, it's on the other side, obviously. So if it's morning, it's coming down here, and night, it's going down there. I watch that line of the sun slowly drop down the trees in the as it darkens up, and then it goes. And the trees on this side turn into lace against the sky, where these ones are lit up by it. And in the mornings, it's the opposite. And so there's something magical about that whole piece. Yeah, I
Yes.
don't know. I can't get enough of that.
So what I'm hearing is that in some ways you're a chef. Like as the person who's eating the meal, you don't necessarily have to know exactly how much cumin was used in the recipe or that there
Mm.
was any cumin at all. You taste it and it's either amazing or it isn't. And it will be amazing because the chef has poured his or her heart into it and all of their talent and everything else and all of their experience. And so how that works, it doesn't, again, maybe a chef would say the same kinds of things that you did, the levels of discovery. First, we're going to hit them with this kind of flavor, then we're moving onto there, and then we're going to end with sweet or whatever.
I
My
think
my point
songwriters
is
do
that
the same thing. Songwriters and
yeah,
musicians, I'm no musician. I absolutely love music. And I
right,
love the fact that in a band or if as band gets bigger, the nuances, the little pieces that make the richness of the mixture. You think of a little three-piece jazz band, like a
mhm,
guitar, a double bass, and a drum kit, and you
right,
go, oh, wow, that can do all this stuff. And it's the genius of those people. And then they create a mastermind effect because they're all doing it together. There may be one
right,
that leads at one time, another, but the combination is beyond themselves. And then you take a 7-piece band and you go, you might have a couple of guitars and then you might have a horn or a sax or whatever, and then or and harmonica and stuff, and you start to blend these wind instruments with the other instrument with the string instruments and just the richness of it just pulls you into it.
and again, I think it's that people, musicians or chefs, or in this case, Adrian, who
Artists, yeah,
has this ability and now is learning how to and has learned how to express it and has made it into a system and now can share it.
yeah.
So with your clients. And so we've
It's
done the
like being,
land.
when I say a musician, there's people who are great musicians. They might need a great songwriter, and they might need a great
Right.
arranger. And a producer comes in, and the producer says a little more on there, a little less on there. This will do this, and they look into it. They can see into the music, and they can go,
Right.
yeah, just a little. A great sound engineer, just a little, just bring this up, just that little bit. And it's, oh my God, we went from great to extraordinary. And it's this is the mix. This is what we do. It's that's why we work so closely with the builder. That's why we work, closely with an engineer. But we need to embody the land and we need to embody the process with our clients, and we need to be in deep empathy with our clients and with the land to be able to go,
Right.
oh, okay, now we're journeying. Now we're hand in hand here. We're not opposed to each other. We're not pushing each other around. We have to have great rapport, and we may have lots of joking and fun in that rapport, but we're not pushing each other around. We're here for a common goal, and we're journeying. You design houses. They're all your homes. They're all your houses as much as they are the clients, yet they're not about you.
Exactly. And they
Yeah,
never have been, nor will they ever be. But I see myself as like a lens. So the clients are the people with the eyes. I'm the lens. And so that we focus the project through that lens. The higher quality lens, the clearer the vision
I
becomes.
love that. I
So
love
I'm
that.
not unimportant, right? Not unimportant, but I'm not the dream, right? You said it
Yeah.
perfectly. So let's see. I got land whispering. By the way, that was the most beautiful. Listening to you talk about land whispering was inspirational. So thank you for
Okay.
doing that.
Let's
And
come and do
and
some
so
in America together.
yeah. You won't be able to keep me away. Um, and we have design magic.
I'd like to thank Stetson Hats Australia for providing my amazing collection of open road Stetson hats. Since 1865, John B. Stetson has been crafting legendary headwear, adorning the heads of Western icons like Annie Oakley and George Custer. The open road hat debuted in 1937, beloved by artists, outlaws, presidents alike. Its timeless style fits the setting from city streets to open plains. Whether in the cab of a truck or my trusty Mini Cooper, the open road is all style. If you think hats aren't for you, you just haven't found the right one yet. Discover yours at stetsonaustralia.com or stetson.com if you're in the USA. Thanks, Stetson, for your support. Please share your Stetson moment by emailing me your photo to talkdesign@gmail.com. Let's celebrate the timeless allure of Stetson together.
Now I want to go to emotional floor plan. So give me a little bit of
So
runway on
I've
that.
got to credit a lot of what happened with the emotional floor plan to an ability to build rapport with people. And what kind of crystallized it a lot for me was a conversation with a professor at UT in Texas, a guy called Sam
Mhm.
Gosling, and he's been doing a big study on how emotions drive architecture. And so I got talking to Sam. One of my guests on the podcast, I have this thing. If you've got somebody that you think would be amazing to listen to on the podcast, get in touch with me and ask me to interview them. And then we will make contact with them. And if you know them, that's cool. If you don't know them, that's fine as well. We just need a way to get in touch. And then we will
Right.
approach them and say, will you come on the podcast? So one of my listeners said to me, I would be fascinated to hear a conversation with Sam Gosling. And I'm like, who's Sam Gosling? So I look him up and I go, man, I'd be fascinated to have a conversation with this guy. So through that, I contacted Sam Gosling. And in contacting Sam, I was able to talk to him about what he's doing. And he's on the podcast. You can go and listen to him. There's a couple of things from him there on the podcast. And he's got this
Mhm.
study that he's doing. And so I was really keen to hear what was happening with that. And a lot of the basis of the work that Sam has done was based off an architect called Christopher Travis. And Christopher Travis is an architect in America. And he has a process, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but the name of the process. But you'll see Christopher Travis is on the podcast as well. But he has a process of almost like life coaching people through what their home should be like. I think it's called the
Right.
true home process, something like that. And anyway, so I was fascinated. So I talked to Christopher as well about what he does and how he does it. And I was like, okay, there's a version of that that I'm doing. There's a version of that that I'm discovering with people. But again, there's this more formalization of what we're trying to do. And I was I was also at the time, I was like looking for a way to formalize my thinking around it into points to capture and ways to capture it. And one word, if I said the word powerful, that will mean something in everybody's brain. There will be an image or a narrative or a feeling that's in them when I say the word powerful. If I say retreat, there'll be something in that as well. Any of these words. And then we start going, okay, so a home needs to deliver on so many levels, like so many levels of support for the occupants. So we've got the land supported, we've done that, we've land whispered it. We've got the kind of the piece where we know what the budgets and how things can come together are. And then we go to how do we support these people? How do we really support them? And actually, one of the early podcasts I did this on when I was playing with the idea and formalizing it was Stephanie Thatcher. If you look up her podcast, and I just took her through a little process at the end of telling me about her favorite space. And this is me touching on this process. I'm just going to touch on what we do, but I do this with a lot of guests. I ask them their favorite space in their own home and what it means and when it feels a certain way and what that feeling allows them to be. Now, and with clients, I'll go a lot deeper than that, than this little touch. But I'll give you the example. I might say, I'll go back to the first original conversation with Stephanie. I said to Stephanie, so what's your favorite place in your home? And she lives in Utah and she lives with the woods out the back of her home. She's got a back lawn and it runs into trees and stuff. And here's something that's really stuns me with this. She says to me, it's my back porch. It's not actually inside my home.
Right.
Now I'm like, that's really interesting, isn't it? In my mind, I'm going to an architect who designed your home, but it's not in your home that your favorite space is. At the time, my judgment was like, oh, wow, okay, that's interesting. Question came to mind, which was like, why don't you design something in your home you'd love more? You know, this kind of, I didn't go there, obviously, but I went, okay, let's understand this. Let's get into the curiosity and the deep empathy with it. How do I do that? And so I started to unravel what it meant to be in that space. And it was a place of refuge for her. It was a place of renewal. It was a place of being in touch with nature. If you go through every podcast since then, you'll hear people say outside was more important than inside.
And it gets back to the land whispering too. If you had taken the best spot for the house, then you wouldn't have had that as your
adjacent spot that had carried the energy of the land in it, the actual energy, the actual magnetic force, the terror, the land itself in there. And that's when you go, whoa, hold on a second. I've hit a trifecta here of these things are intrinsically linked. So I actually do the emotional floor plan, often walking on land with people before we even build something. I'm asking them to explain the land to me, what they're feeling about it. And then I'm like, okay, and I'm looking for all the cues. I'm looking for the things that are going to inform the next part of the story. And that piece, once we get inside the house, is how do you use your ensuite? At what time? You know, an ensuite in the morning is 9 times out of 10 for people. Get up, get washed, get refreshed. Maybe take a few breaths, maybe not, because they're in motion, man. They've got a purpose for the day. Then that ensuite on a Thursday night maybe washes that part of the week away. And they stand in there and maybe they've got a spray shower during the week, and on that Thursday night, they're standing in a shower and just letting it flood open, but it's a rain head. It's a different feeling. That one shower box is doing 2 things. Maybe they've got a bathtub and they want to set up some candles and gaze into candles. Maybe they'll sit with their partner in the bathtub. Maybe they'll sit there and have a glass of wine. It's a connection space. It's really because most of the time in there you're naked or semi-naked, it's an intimate space. And I don't mean sexually necessarily, but it's an intimate space. It's a
Yep.
private space. What are the feelings you have then and at what time of the day and what part of the week? Your kitchen, it's a food making. So for some people, it is like taking their heart out and handing it across the counter on a plate because of the love they have for being able to feed others. It's their biggest giving in life. For other people, it's a bloody nightmare. They go, I've got too many things happening at once and I can't keep control of them all. Other times it's a big entertaining space. I want my family, my grandkids around. I want my family to be in this food generation of creativity and health and wellness and all the rest. So it does all those
So,
things.
so what you're trying to do with the emotional floor plan is find out what they need and then provide that.
Yeah,
So
and capture it in a
it's
couple of words.
okay.
And then what are
Got and
those
so
words?
that
Form a dictionary of their understanding of what that thing is. Powerful to you is different from maybe powerful to me. What is
right,
if their word is powerful, then what is powerful equal?
right.
What does that
Got it.
mean? And what when they're powerful, when they're empowered and they're powerful in that space, what does that allow them to bring to the world in their life?
So that's super interesting, Adrian. And I do something similar to that, but I've never articulated it in that way. And I have to now, again, taking notes.
I say
Uh,
all credit to Sam Gosling and Christopher Travis. And
mhm,
I was like you prior to digging into their work. And
yeah,
when I dug into their work, it was like I'd lifted a rock and
yeah,
I expected to see some things under there, and I did. And I got what I
mhm,
expected, but then I got everything else.
yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
suddenly now I was like, oh, wow, this is what there
And
is truly behind this. And that opened
it's
up my
so, so,
empathy.
so it seems to me like what's really happening, there's two things. First, when someone hires Adrian, they're expecting one level of service and they're going to get that. Their home will be
That's
beautiful
what
and
we
they'll
do.
be
Yeah.
exactly. But what they're really getting is all this other stuff in addition, which makes the beautiful photos actually mean something. It's not just a beautiful photograph of a beautiful kitchen or whatever. It's a space that emotionally resonates with the owners for very specific and reasons that have been articulated to you, Adrian, because of the way that you interact with the client, getting that them to be vulnerable and authentic, and then you use now your talent to design that space so it fits. Like I always use this example, and I'm sure it applies to you. Daniel Craig in his first James Bond movie at Casino Royale, he's wearing
Mm-hmm.
this tuxedo, and I don't know that anyone's ever looked better in a tuxedo. And the
Except for
reason
yourself.
he's second best, right? So anyway,
Yeah. Third,
but the
third.
reason he looks yeah, exactly. It's a distant third too, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
People put me in front of him, but yeah.
exactly. But the reason he looks so good is because it's been tailored to him
Yeah.
exactly. Not just like somebody with kind of broad shoulders, with his exact shoulders, not someone with kind of a slender waist, his exact waist.
Yeah.
And you, do this for our clients and their homes. And so to me, it's not like the kitchen that we would like to have. It is even better than the best possible kitchen because it resonates at these different levels. Okay,
That's what we're aiming
I
to
have
do.
one more question.
And that's why design's a discovery, because that's what we're aiming to do. And we have to discover it, but we've got to find the
Right,
parameters to discover it within. And
right,
having them as three separate processes means that we get to tick those boxes, which is sometimes done really gently and flowy, and other times it may be more sitting down and kicking goals. We want this
right.
stuff across the line, and I want you to really consider it. But you cannot give me the answers necessarily in that moment. You need consideration time. You know, I don't know with you how many
Mhm.
times you draw a house before it's ready for the client. The first drawing I give them, I say to them, That they might say, "Oh, this is perfect," and I go, "Can't be." And they'll be, "Why?" And I go, "Because we don't know each other well enough. We haven't discovered each other well enough. We need more time to discover it. It could be perfect. Let's go on. Let's be
But
rigorous.
yeah.
Let's dig in. Let me tell you some of the compromises I've made for you in this home." And they'll be like,
Mhm.
"What?" And I'll go, "Yeah, I moved this here and did this here." And generally, we might, in discovery of a home, draw it. And three times we'll be really close, but five or six often, while we manipulate and we twist and we just shift and play, and we feel more about them and they give us more of themselves, and we're peeling back the onion. Yeah, anyway, go. You had one more question.
Yeah, so to me, so first off, thank you. I was super interested to hijack the show
Yeah, it's
and
fascinating.
to ask specifically about those three: land whispering, design magic, the emotional floor plan. So thank you. My last question is, your life looks like it's busy at the moment. You've got the AR Design House, you've got your TV show, like we haven't really talked too much about that. You do these tours, you go to Austin, Texas every year, you travel like a crazy man, and you're a professional fan of music. So you got all that going. And so, so to me, what I've like learned here is that everything folds in on everything else. The podcast and the podcast, you got to Sam Gosling, right? But the TV show, now you get other things that happen. And so my question is this. So first off, tell me a little bit about your schedule. And then two, you're still designing homes, right? And tell me about
100%.
that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yes, I'm still designing homes. That is my number one passion. All the other is stuff that comes around it. And most of the other comes from the form of educating myself. And beyond that, allowing other people the opportunity to hear the knowledge of others. I could have these
Yeah.
conversations. Maybe I wouldn't get as many of them, but I can have these conversations on a podcast because there's something in it for the other person. Now, what I'm getting is I'm getting their knowledge and I'm getting fed. Trust me, I'm on a banquet. So if nobody else listened, I'm still done. Okay. I'm good with it. What it's
Right.
given me the opportunity to do is allow other people to listen to these people that I get to talk to. It's also given me a platform where I'm giving those people value and for their marketing and for them being able to share their story and their passion. That's beautiful to be able to do as well. And then a listener who listens to the show gets the other opportunity to hear what this other person has and what they bring, and then they get to go on that journey as well. And the listeners aren't all architects. There's all kinds of people that listen to the show. They're not just architects and designers. And so
Mhm.
with that, I'm now, I don't know, well over 200 episodes, and I record every week. So you said about my schedule. My recording is done
Yeah.
usually at 5 a.m. in the morning or 6 a.m. in the morning, and that is usually done on my Thursday morning, which
Mhm.
is in America.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's your Wednesday. And
Right.
the reason I do my Thursday is because on Wednesday, I meet with a mastermind group of architects all around the world so that I can learn more about architecture and more about what we can bring to process and for clients. So that has me booked out on a Wednesday morning.
Mhm.
And then on a Tuesday morning, I meet with my land whisperers, or we call it the whisperers group. I meet with them
Mhm.
at 6 a.m. So I meet with the Architects Marketing Institute mastermind at 5 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. On a Tuesday morning,
Right.
I meet with my group at 6 a.m. On Monday, I
You sleep
actually,
in.
yeah, no, I go surfing usually. On Monday is a surf morning. And sometimes I might
Nice.
just get up and work or whatever, or I might go for a walk
Mhm.
or whatever like that. And
Mhm.
then, so that leaves me
Mhm.
Fridays. That's often a surf morning. My daughter is a surfer, and she and I try to surf on Friday mornings. together.
Nice. Love that. Love
And
that.
yeah, it is. It's cool. And sometimes I will, depending on the tides and all the rest, I might chuck an extra podcast in on my Friday morning, which is somebody's Thursday. And I just did a whole
Mhm.
series for the AIA Austin for their homes tour. And I recorded like 9 different architects, plus photographer, plus Ingrid from the director of the AIA Austin for that.
Mhm.
And in doing that, I'm putting these into a time schedule because they have to be released at a certain amount of time. So for the past, I don't know, month or whatever, more than a month, we've been dropping 3 episodes a week of that because the homes tour is in 2 weekends. Yeah, I think not this weekend, the following weekend in Austin.
Right.
So with that, we want that out there. And we've also started putting them up on YouTube. And now that they're going up on YouTube, we're using a lot more visual stimulation in the podcast as well. So because
Okay.
we're talking about specific houses in this case, not just
Right. So
generally.
you have the photos and videos of the
Yeah,
houses.
exactly. So yeah, so with that, and we talk about things like the client brief and why it became this way, what the land said to them, the emotional floor plan. We add all these things.
Yep.
So the podcast is that chunk of life.
Mhm.
The TV show, 3 to 4 days a month I shoot, generally through 1 week. So my first call will be at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I'm usually finished by 6 p.m. at night on 3 to 4 days of a week. So it's very rarely 5 sometimes, but not often.
Yep.
And I just do Queensland. So sometimes I'm traveling around, other times I'm within an hour or 2 of home. Just depends where we're shooting. That's like an extension of the podcast in a lot of ways because I'm discovering the people and the homes that they've got because it's Dream Homes Revealed. I'm discovering them and I'm discovering those architects, builders, interior designers on that show. You won't be able to watch it outside of Australia because it's geo locked. However, if somebody's really keen to see some footage of it, I do have footage of different parts of the show which I can share. That's no issue.
So just on a quick note, I actually have now received an email with such footage, and I got it yesterday, I think, or maybe
Yeah.
this morning, and I literally can't wait. And so
It's got a few houses that I present on it. So I can't send
yeah,
you the show, but I can send you some of the
I
houses I
know.
present. And so that actually takes a chunk of time out of my thing. So those when I finish at 6, I usually if I'm home, I'm like
Mhm.
hoovering down some dinner and I am back to my desk till say 10 and get through my day. I don't generally stop much during the day to get through anything. I might have to
Mhm.
make client calls as we do lunch break or things like that, or builder calls. It just depends.
Yep. No, I get it. I get it.
So I'm usually a bit later in responding on those days, but I try to get through everything on those days. And if not me, who do I direct it to in my team? And then I know what that week is going to be well in advance. So I kind of plan around that week. And I've
Mhm.
got clients that are international clients as well as national clients as well as local clients. And I used to run around about 12 to 16 clients over a year. And that'd be some from the year before, and
Yep.
they're all kind of fluid. Now I'm working on 4 to 6, and that's some hangover and some other. So I've reduced
Right.
the size of the number of projects that we do, the capacity. And with that, I've become more, I wouldn't say more selective. It is more selective, but I'm more deliberate about the ones we're going to take and the ones I'm not going to take. I'm a pleaser, I'm a people pleaser, so I hate to say no to people, but growing that muscle
Right.
this
You kind
doesn't
of pour
suit me.
into it.
Yeah. And I've got a wide range of other design people that I know. So I often will go, to have a chat to this, but your project's not for me, but have a chat to this person. We need to, for me, and I know you're exactly the same with this. If you do not
Mhm.
get a magical feeling from the client, then there's no magic to be made.
Right.
And so
Right.
do not proceed past this point, stop and go and find the person you've got the magic with, because I want to help everybody. What I've learned is that the best way I can help them is when I can bring my magic, and that brings them into the magic show, and then we create more magic together. So there's that. The tours we're running, I've teamed up with these guys called Feast Experiences, and they are food guys, like absolute food guys. You watch MasterChef, that is their Rolodex. Right. Not Master Chef's Table. That is their Rolodex. Okay. That's what they go through. And I had this conversation with Sam, and Sam was like, I said, people live in houses and people eat food. Both of these are beautiful, elevated experiences. And where they do that shifts how they see a place. There's an emotional shift on how they feed themselves and where they do that. And so I'd been running small architectural tours, anywhere from 4 to about 6 people. And you've been on one of these with just a couple of people. So I've been running those really ad hoc, pull it together, get some of my heroes in line and go and visit them in their studios and go and visit their projects, and these people that just enthrall me with their architectural sense and their land whisperers. When I say land whisperer, I think of Jose from Dust Architecture. That's who I think. He's the coolest dude. And when it comes to land whispering, I just want to walk one step behind him in the same footprints he takes and hope to get a tiny bit of what he understands. So
that was a magical tour for me personally, to meet those two from Dust, but also that whole was like a long weekend or whatever.
Yeah, 4 days.
Yeah, and then just texting. I remember texting you in Santa Fe. I'm still awake. You awake? Yeah. Want to go for a walk? And then Santa Fe, like around midnight or whatever time it was, and we're the only 2 people on the street.
It was
just amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. And
that's the magic. So I've gone, okay, how do I bring that? How do I elevate that beyond where it was? So with Sam from Feast Experiences, that's a real story of elevation of that. He is a tour operator that has been operating tours for a long time. He understands touring. He understands so much more of it than I do. I can give over a whole lot of the organizational structure, and that allows me to host more and bring the magic. So we do these small group tours. And when I say small, 10 people, maybe 16, somewhere in those numbers is usually about the economics and about the size where people start to form bond relationships. And over 5 days, 6 days, they bond with everybody in the group in different ways. And so then there's the magic of the networking and the depth of understanding of seeing architecture and experiencing food through each other's eyes and making the lifelong contacts that we deserve in life. And then doing it in these, so that's around 4 tours a year. And with 4 tours a year, that stretches the relationship a little with my wife. But if I can get her to come on, not necessarily one of the tours, but come on a pre-tour with me or a post-tour with me, we go and create our own magic together, doing our things. And then I can give all my energy into those moments. I'm a guy that lives very much in the moment. So when I'm there on the ground, I'm like, my joy is just to give and give with this and experience it with them and be filled with wonderment with them. And then there's this lovely session at the end of every tour, which we call the breaking bread. That's Sam, where we spend a day eating and talking, breaking bread. Right. So again, this takes maybe a week. So there's 4 weeks of the year that I'm off traveling, doing these things. And again, those 4 weeks, I schedule my business work around those. I schedule the TV around those. So 1 a quarter is about it. And in there also, I like to also, I try and arrange tours around an event that I may want to go to. I might want to go to an architectural conference somewhere in the world, or a design, interior design conference or something like that,
Yeah.
or show or fair or something. So I will go, okay, I'm going to be there then. Now I will come and tour with you, usually after, but sometimes before. And the tours are adventures, eh? Like the tours are they're adventurous. They things
Yeah.
you uncover things along the way, and we prescribe a lot more with Sam, but you uncover things along the way. So you're on this adventure journey, which is really exciting.
Yeah. So this has been an amazing hour, Adrian. And I guess I already knew this about you, but like the deep way that you see the world is to me just I want to be around it, right? But the thing I think I learned a little bit today is you're always expanding. You're a lifelong learner.
Mm.
And you know what today that wasn't enough a year or two ago. You needed to learn more. And then you crafted a life that included the podcast, that includes now the TV show, it includes these tours, it includes your office. And every one of those and more benefit from every other one, mainly because you want to be this lifelong learner and can do it. So to me, I really like being your friend. So,
I love being
and
your friend too.
right,
Because you
it's
challenge me when we're in places. I get to see it through your eyes. You challenge me with things and you open up another dimension of your observations of things that I may
and
not
we do
see in
that to
that
each other.
moment. I know. And
Yeah,
that's joyful. That's joyful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for me too.
And
So,
like, I remember asking you years ago, we were somewhere, I'm pretty sure I asked you this. So, has that building got masculine energy or feminine energy?
and that was
And yeah, and I believe that buildings and structures carry masculine or feminine energy, sometimes both in different forms.
right.
And we are in a consciousness state in the world of the rise of feminine energy. Like, this is actually a consciousness state. And we can
Right.
physically see it happening over the last 20 years. The rise of woman in power, the rise of feminine energy. It's not the taking away from the male energy, it's
No,
just bringing this other up. It's starting to balance it and bring it. We need it.
right.
And in this cycle, I love to look at buildings and go, oh, has that got masculine energy or feminine energy? What's the story it tells? And Mark Dyson, who's on the podcast from Dyson Klein, he said to me about one of his professors, he said, his professor said to him, Mark, your building needs to speak for itself. So Mark's based in Japan and he
Mhm.
is an incredible architect. And he says, his professor says, you can't stand outside all day explaining it to people. So it's got to have a voice, it's got to speak.
Yeah,
And if you look at the work of Thomas Heatherwick and his book Humanize, he is
yep,
talking about that specifically, that our buildings need to speak. And when we give them a voice that is of their space and of their purpose, we engage people and people's levels of emotional joy lift. When people's levels of emotional joy lift, we get more love in the world.
right,
And if
right.
we, as people who have this incredible opportunity to design stuff that stands there and people get to observe, we need to be rigorous and we need to take that on and go, are we going to bring joy in the world with what we do? Because if we're not, rethink our purpose.
Exactly, exactly.
So to
So,
me, this is our responsibility and we're blessed to have it. We are so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled to have it.
agree, grateful. It's weight on our shoulders, and it's weight I would even say, I was going to say gleefully. I'm going to go with gleefully take on that weight.
Yeah.
I want that responsibility because if I don't, me personally, and again, I think going to be in lockstep here. If I don't feel that weight, then it's not the right project, right? And so we need
Excellent.
to, find the right people to work with, the right projects. And it's just like, to me, what I got from this hour, because I've been on Talk Design a couple of times, and I always look forward to the next time. But I got to learn more about you this time, and so I'm grateful for that.
You became the
And
host.
yeah, exactly. So I probably will be quitting my day job within
Yep.
a week or so.
I think it's over,
Uh,
that day job. Yeah. Oh man, I really
anyway,
appreciate it.
yeah, it was super fun, and to me, it's again, it was fun to try to get stuff out at Adrian this time, and I hope that your listeners appreciate it even half as much as I did. So
And
we'll
I
go
hope
from
they
there.
do as well. But look, listeners, by all means, write into us. Come and talk to Peter as well. Peter has a wealth of knowledge to share, like incredible wealth of knowledge. And he is very empathetic as a human. So that is obviously parts of the values we connect on.
Right.
It's, yeah, it's magical. And I'm so blessed to have you as a friend and as a colleague around the world, buddy.
Yeah.
From the bottom of my heart, it's the pleasure is all mine to spend time with you.
Yeah. Thank you. And likewise, and right back at you.
Thank you so much for your time and hijacking my show. That's it. Over and out.
Bucket list item for me accomplished.
I
Done.
can't, yeah. Peter, podcast host.
Exactly. Thanks,
Cool,
Adrian.
guys. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsay.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.